Hi guys, welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews. Jason here bringing you today's video. My fuzzy co-star I'm sure is going to dive bomb me shortly because she has to put in her appearance. As always guys, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Small family channel, love to talk about books and we would really appreciate any support you guys might want to give us. On that note, thank you to our patrons, but also thanks to the suggestions from some of you guys, I finally got us set up with Amazon affiliates. So check the description down below for the links to the books I talk about today and any other applicable links that I may think of. We need the traffic through there while we're in the probationary period for their for the program. So today is going to be a little bit different in that I'm not going to talk about a new book that came out. It might be a little bit shorter. I kind of got this little series. I've got these 7 or 8 notes written down for videos within this series. I want to talk about authors that people may not be aware of within certain genres because there's a lot of younger viewers out there. Plus, even if you're diehard into a particular genre, you don't always know every single fantastic, incredible, amazing author out there. Even the legendary ones, such like that. I mean, we don't have time to read every book. It's even as fast as I read, don't have time to read every book out there. So I thought I'd do a few videos on that. So I want to talk about today. I want to talk about 5 fantasy authors that are older authors in some cases, and that you may or may not have heard of. But if you are a fantasy reader, you've got to check out these authors. Absolutely have to check out these authors. So the very first one is definitely an older one. He started writing, his books first started coming out in the 60s, and most of the ones that I have read are from that era, although he was still releasing books as late as 2000, early 2000s if I recall. I want to talk about Michael Moorcock. Michael Moorcock. He is an author. If you are a fantasy author, or fantasy fan, you have got to read Michael Moorcock. A little bit darker in some areas. In other areas, just a little bit weird, I suppose. I think it's called the Swords Trilogy is my favorite. You can find it in one book, the Swords Trilogy, like compendium almost. Really cool, really cool, really awesome. And he writes primarily about what he calls the Eternal Champion or Eternal Warrior, and it's basically Michael Moorcock writes fantasy that's theoretically Earth, although he built basically this massive multiverse. Almost everything is Earth related, but alternate dimensions, alternate histories, and covers everything from swords and sorcery fantasy all the way up to future, to World War II, to our present times, things along those lines. A little bit of everything. And he has the Eternal Champion. Basically, he writes the things that there's 2 major forces, chaos and order, or chaos and law, however you want to put it. And then you've got balance. And balance is a force that is basically there to try and, keep the balance between those. And the Eternal Champion just spawns from time to time when one of the forces gets out of balance. And he's there to return balance. And what shows up in a lot of his books is they're almost like incarnations of the same person. Names are similar sometimes, things along those lines. You got to check out Michael Moorcock. Next one, this one would be from the 80s. And again, older fantasy fans are definitely going to know these names, absolutely going to know these names. But some of the younger ones may not. They won't realize just how incredibly influential these particular authors are. I'm talking about Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. And I lumped those 2 together because of their Dragonlance trilogy, their TSR Dragonlance trilogy from way back in the day. Now, obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings set a lot of fantasy in place and a lot of the more common tropes, but it was Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman's Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Dragons of Winter Night, and Dragons of Spring Dawning that set a lot of the common tropes in place, such as your balanced party of your wizard, your fighter, your thief, your cleric, your barbarian, so on and so forth. Well, if you think about J.R.R. Tolkien and that group, you can't really call the hobbits thieves, although in some fantasy settings that particular race would be considered roguish type race. But basically you just had fighters, a ranger, and theoretically a wizard, but honestly Gandalf was a level 20 fighter with a couple of cantrips. So it was really Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman that just influenced so much of fantasy with what they did in their legendary authors, legendary series. The next one, number 3, Raymond E. Feist. Raymond E. Feist. His Midkemian novels, it started out with Magician, which is considered one of the must-reads of fantasy. So if you've not heard of Raymond E. Feist or have not read Magician Apprentice and Magician Master, I strongly encourage you to. You have to. It's absolute beyond must-reads. You have to check out Raymond E. Feist and read Magician Apprentice and Magician Master. That may lead you to read the next 2 books. He generally writes things in trilogies, but it covers this world and eventually this multiverse that he built out that spans somewhere around 20, 30 books, but he does actually end it, which is pretty awesome as well. Fantastic. One of my favorite fantasy authors of all time. You guys got to check him out. Next one is one that I'm very sad because he has left us. He is no longer with us. That is David Gemmell. David Gemmell. Typical swords and sorcery fantasy. Very rarely does he write continuous stuff. He does have a few characters that pop up in 3 or 4, well, 2 to 4 books, like Druss the Axeman, or Druss the Legend, as he is called, and a couple of other legendary in his books warriors. But for the most part, his books are 1-offs, 2-offs, maybe 3-offs. Waylander the Slayer, the assassin character, and they're not really finite trilogies. They're just maybe a book that happens to include a character they already wrote about, kind of thing. It's its own plot, its own thing. You don't have to have read the other ones. So pretty cool. And his writing style is one of the funniest that I've ever read. Absolutely cannot recommend David Gemmell enough. And again, he is no longer with us, so we've really missed out there. And the last one that a lot of people may not be aware of is Mickey Zucker Reichert. You guys got to check, if you like fantasy, especially if you like swords and sorcery type fantasy, Mickey Zucker Reichert, you got to check him out. You got to check him out, especially the Renshai Chronicles, the Renshai trilogy, however you want to put it, Chronicles trilogy, whatever you want. It's pretty awesome. And there's kind of a little not bait and switch, but kind of a little switcheroo on you, because you think it's talking about one particular Renshai Raki, and then next thing you know, it's talking about Kolbe, who's this legendary Renshai, and then it turns out that he's more legendary than you might have thought. Phenomenal. And it was the Renshai Chronicles that got me really into Mickey Zucker Reichert, and then from there I just kind of springboarded to a whole bunch of others of their videos of their books. Fantastic books. So guys, if you guys are fantasy fans and you have not heard of any of these particular authors, you got to check them out. Check them out right away. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye now.